Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
There's nothing quite like a good origin story, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with, once again, as always. My name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and conversational fashion, because that's how we like to do things around here. And if you like how we do things, you're listening, so I'm assuming you do. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can find us over on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Google. It's all good. Basically, wherever you find your podcasts. And plus, you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel. And we'd love it if you'd subscribe over there, too. Plus, you can follow us on social media. You can find us over at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either In The Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In The Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest film reviews, TV reviews, basically anything from the moving image, because we love to talk about the moving image, and we love it when you read about it. So please come on by, because nothing will make us happier. On this episode, we got a good one. We've got, as we said, an origin story. We're diving into the story of Spider-Mable, which is a documentary which is on video on demand now, and I do recommend you check it out because it's kind of an adorable film in more ways than one. It is the story of a young cancer survivor, and it's her name is Mable Tooke, and her dream. Her Make-A-Wish dream was just having a day of fighting crime with her hero, Spider-Man. And this comes true, and everything goes viral. But what's even more viral and more amazing is that this young woman learns the power of being able to give back and being able to pay it forward, and becomes a real force in the community for fundraising and sort of helping people who helped her, which is such a beautiful message to get out there. And it's an adorable, fun, feel-good film, which I do recommend you check out because it is a real-life superhero story. And we had the distinct pleasure of sitting down with writer-director Kelly Wolfert about the film and how he discovered this story, and sort of diving into the legacy of the hero that is Spider-Mable. And she is a hero in my heart for sure. And she will be for you, too, if you check it out on VOD, which I do recommend you do. But first, enjoy our talk with Kelly, because it's a good one, which I enjoyed the hell out of, so I know you will, too. Now, I mean, obviously, first off, congratulations on the movie, man. I loved it. Now, I guess my first question is, walk me through discovering, the legend of Spider-Mable.
It was a really organic start to it all. I went to do a corporate video. So every year we try to give back a corporate video for the production company I run. And it was for a fundraiser for Children's Wish. And there was this one girl that just was capturing everybody's attention and running around and everything. And so I noticed Mabel there, but it's not until a few months later when I found out what her wish was that we were like, hey, we would like to sort of help. Can we film the wish? Can we help organize something? Do you need to talk to people? Can we help connect things? And I mean, the wish came together really quickly. Had to wait for the mayor's schedule to open up. Had about 10 days. At the end of the day, I went home, sat in front of my TV, and Peter Mansbridge was reading about it on the news, the National. So it was kind of like, wow, that was a whirlwind.
That's crazy. Now, I mean, when you decided to ultimately go, okay, I think this is a film, like, was the family on board? Was everyone on board? Because, I mean, obviously they're going through the process of the wish, but at the same time, she's also sick, and it could have not had a happy ending. So, like, how was that sort of process of sort of convincing them to sort of let you be embedded with their lives, as it were?
They were on board for the wish, so filming that. They obviously enjoyed that day, enjoyed the experience. I asked them if they wanted to sit down and do some interviews a couple days later, just to sort of catch the freshness of it all. And is kind of at that moment where Mabel was way more articulate for a 6-year-old than you'd expect. using bigger words, a more serious outlook on life, and just seemingly an old soul. And that's when we said, I'd like to keep following you guys and see where this goes. And that's when they mentioned Mabel has, it's back to real life. Mabel has a treatment coming up in, I think it was like about a week. And so we were like, yeah, can we follow you on that? And so when we started to see what real life was like, and that struggle, that also was like, okay, this is a short film. And then Mabel did her first fundraiser, which had it was a comic book signing. There was an artist in Edmonton that did some drawings, and people were lined up throughout the building and sort of outside. We didn't end up catching that during the film, but there was people that were already lined up outside. So that's when it was like, okay, let's keep going with this. And then she went into this giving back phase, and still going through the struggle of living with and surviving cancer. And so that's when we knew that this was for sure a feature-length documentary.
I mean, that's absolutely wild. I mean, just seeing sort of the resolve of this kid is really, like, it was a beautiful and inspirational sort of journey to be able to follow. I mean, and can you walk me through just sort of, it all sounds very organic, and I mean, just how it expanded, like how you got Kevin Smith to do some bits and just getting more and more people to talk to. It really felt like you didn't have to twist too many arms to get people to talk about Spider-Mable.
No, that's very true. Even the idea of the Wish to start, we connected the Children's Wish Foundation of Canada with the Edmonton Oilers, because I do a little bit of work with them. And the Oiler captain at the time, Andrew Ferentz, was on board in a second. And he was actually so into it. You see in the film that he's wearing his gear and everything. Like it's a bit of his personality that he's given back in Boston and in Edmonton. So that was great. Yeah, there was nobody that really said no to anything. We had one little struggle with trying to get permission to film Stan Lee, which is why you only hear his voice.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Stan's issue. It was the people that ran the area where you could get the photos taken.
Oh, right.
And so they didn't want to cause any waves or anything. And so we just used the audio, and that worked out fine. You still hear Stan and you see Mabel's excitement. So I mean, everybody all along this process has been on board, because it's just a simple thing that each one of them has given, that they know that, the snowball effect. They do something small, they know other people are going to, but the effect is going to be big.
Now, I mean, were you a comic book fan going in? Like, did you sort of have to educate yourself on the lore of Spider-Man before you started really getting into Spider-Mable?
Spider-Man's almost the only comic book that I sort of followed. I was the last of, I am the last of 7 kids. So by the time the comic books made their way to me, they were sort of half torn and ripped and everything. So it was kind of hard to get really, really into it. But I did follow the 60s TV series, and I've seen every one of those.
Oh, me too. God, love that. I love that show. In watching the film, like I was struck just about sort of, I guess, the enthusiasm. And I mean, as a filmmaker, like, you can't manufacture this. You just have to sort of stumble upon it. I mean, I think that's the one thing, especially about documentary filmmaking, that people don't necessarily understand. Like, you're either sort of meticulously crafting something during research, or you see something on the news, or you stumble upon something. Is it always been sort of a mantra for you to sort of just have the camera ready to go, just if you see something interesting?
Yeah, I've been working as a cinematographer for decades, and worked on a lot of international documentaries with some really great directors in England and the United States. And so that's kind of where I've sort of learned from them to sort of have the camera ready. Some documentaries that we did were, go down to Chile and go down with the only surviving bodyguard of Salvador Allende, and
Oh, wow.
he's with his daughter showing her for the first time, where he was put in prison, and that whole the coup in the 70s and whatnot. So you have to have a camera ready for that, and you just keep filming, and then you build it in the edit suite. This one was a little bit different in the fact that there is footage from news cameras that were there. We knew that hopefully the news would catch on to it, but the stock footage was basically us. So it's like, okay, well, let's go out and film this because somebody has to capture it, and then we'll build from there. And then it just more and more stuff kept happening as we were trying to get the dollars in place to get the funding and apply for grants and tax credit and stuff like that. So I would just go out with a camera and as many wireless mics as I could stack on top and grab those little moments, like the world record head shave with Mabel's first little speech that didn't go so well.
Right.
It's a very organic process. I'd like to tackle documentaries and planned and set up, but this one was just happening, so we just went with it.
Is there anything you learned about sort of yourself as a filmmaker in the process? Because I mean, the palpable sense of surprise through every sort of stage of the journey really comes through in the film.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's the technical side of things that you learn a little bit. All the learning I find now in my career is coming in the edit suite.
Right.
One of the things that I learned is that I had to step away from fully writing the film. I did write the film. I had some mentorship from some people. I checked in with a consultant, but my editor, Crystal Moss, really, I would explain what the scene is. I've already lived it. It's like it's right there. You go and cut it, and let's cut every single scene that we shot and put it into the film, and then start cutting from there and figuring out how we can save some time instead of having a 9-hour film. And I learned that letting go and letting somebody work that story from the viewer's perspective without being involved in the story with the family was super important. And she did an incredible job. I'd come back in and then we'd sort out exactly what we were going to keep and not keep and work out. And her instincts were spot on.
No, I mean, obviously, as a documentary filmmaker, like when you find a subject, at some point you have to let it go and let them go. But is this one where you think you'll be able to? Because I mean, it's such a nice story. It feels like one you don't want to have to give up.
I think that just getting to the point where after all these number of years of trying to get the funding and the biggest part is that everybody wanted a broadcast 1 hour. So they wanted 44 minutes.
Right.
But there just wasn't the opportunity to make this into 44 minutes. And now you look at things where people are doing more two-parters or they're doing something that's limited series. This could have probably been a limited series. But the fact that it's out, it's a feature-length documentary. I think at that point, that's when you let it go. You let everybody else have a peek at it and let them enjoy it. I can't wait for it to be out there for people. I can't wait to hear their response, and then just go back to just connecting with the family.
Have they seen it?
Yes, we actually did a festival run during pandemic. Is a really interesting thing. So obviously the main festivals cut their film choices by I think more than half.
Yeah.
And so we got into the ones that we were really hoping to get into. So Lunenburg, which is a charming little documentary festival out of Nova Scotia, is where it first showed. It played in 5 festivals in Canada, and of course it played in Edmonton. But that was right when the second wave of the pandemic was starting, so we weren't sure if theaters were going to be closed down. So again, it's another one of those situations where we put it out there and said we wanted to do a drive-in. And one of the malls gave us their parking lot, gave us everything that they were able to give. One of the production companies provided the largest TV screen, portable TV screen in North America, which is basically the back of a semi trailer folds down and like Transformers, out comes this screen. So we had a drive-in for Mabel with about 80 cars and stuff, and so that worked out really well. It was a great way for her to see it. She was with her family, comfortable. Restaurants, donated food, and it was an incredible experience. They saw it that first time, and they were pretty pumped.
That's fantastic. Now, this is something I always like to ask. What kind of films got you into this business? I'm always curious, sort of the inspirational origin stories whenever I talk to filmmakers.
I started out doing documentaries that were a little bit more on the sort of the PBS side of things. I've
Okay.
always wanted to work for Nova, so
Okay. Cool. All right.
science and stuff like that was a little bit more of my growing up. 60 Minutes, anything that was just a real take on a story
Oh, cool.
or
All right.
exploring a moment. And so this was that times 1,000, where every little moment was its own moment, and what were we going to keep in the film and what were we going to cut down and whatnot. So real true sort of, I guess, documentaries that also have like a social commentary to them. And this obviously speaks to volunteerism and looking after each other, which, I mean, the film can't come out at a better time.
Exactly.
Not only because we've already watched everything, but we do need to look after each other. And when you can see that in the work that's being done by a 6-year-old, and the joy that they get from that, and the joy that people get from having somebody on their side in their corner, that's pretty powerful. It's subtle in this film, but I think it's a great social comment.
For you, is that the ultimate hope takeaway for people as it's finally going to be out there in the world, to just sort of understand what this 6-year-old was doing and sort of try to make the world a little bit of a better place, just like Spider-Mable was?
Yeah, and just like any comic book character, really, they have their struggles. That's the nice thing about Spider-Man, which Stan Lee said, is that he wanted to have a superhero that had problems, that had some troubles, and so that's all very real, and that is, lots of people have a struggle, and just knowing that other people are struggling as well is comforting.
For sure.
So Mabel is an incredible role model at such a young age, and the fact that she is such a young age, we can all sort of put aside a bunch of things and just look at that purely as a child. That's like, wow, this is kind of, we get distracted from what that goal is sometimes with life and being adults. But when you see a child doing it, you're like, wow, that's the true, real core of what we need to focus on.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I think that's a great note to end on. And just congratulations again on the film. And thank you so much for the time today, man. This was fun.
Thanks so much.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.